Today, we'll be talking about the odds of getting a book deal. This is something I wish I had known years ago. It took me years to learn and hopefully can break it down for you today in just a few minutes. I should say that for context, most of what we'll be talking about today applies to nonfiction books, fiction authors. If you're listening along, there are some things in here for you as well. But mostly when we talk about the odds of getting a book deal, we'll be addressing writing nonfiction books. I'm Coach Ruth. I'm an author and an author coach, and I've been in the industry for over a decade, and here's some of the wisdom that I have gleaned. So before you understand the odds of getting a book deal, I'd like to break down what the process usually looks like just a little bit. When I say usually looks like, that's because in this industry, things happen in strange ways all the time. However, the standard process would look something like you would create something called a query letter, which is kind of like a cover letter. You know, when you used to apply for jobs, back in the 90s and early 2000s, when we still sent out resumes, we would write a cover letter for the resume. A query letter looks a bit like that. It's our first point of contact, usually with an agent or an acquisitions editor at a publishing house. And we would send them a query letter, letting them know about the type of book we've written, where we are in the process, and all of those things. They're standard things you must include in the query letter. If the agent likes what they see in the query letter, they'll ask then to see your book proposal. Your book proposal is like a business plan for your book, and it also has writing samples attached, writing samples that you've written that are part of the book that you're pitching. Then if they like that, they'll usually schedule a Zoom call with you if you haven't met in person and talk through terms. Agents will sign you on with a contract, and then they'll begin doing a version of that with acquisitions editors at publishing houses. That's how the process usually goes. A lot of people at this point would ask me, should I get an agent? The question is, if you're planning on traditional publishing and you would like to be in bookstores and at airports and you want to work with one of the big five in New York or a mid-sized publisher, you absolutely need an agent. There are some rare cases of people who are unagented, but by and large, you need an agent to work with a major publisher. So yes, you should pitch an agent. If you've had acquisitions editors from major publishing houses slide into your DMs at some point, maybe you're already really well known in your field and someone from a publisher has DM'd you and said, if you ever want to write a book, send a proposal our way, you should get an agent first. And you should tell them that that could be leverage that you use to sign with an agent or an agency, because an agent is an advocate for you and your book. The process, that's what the process usually looks like. So what are the odds? First, we have to think, what are the odds of getting an agent? So the odds of getting an agent are about 1 in 1,000. That is the least dire of the numbers. There's another number floating around out there that's 1 in 6,000, but I think the 1 in 1,000 is much more likely. The way this number was discovered is someone ran a study and asked agents and agencies, how many pitches do you get a month versus how many authors do you sign a month? And about 1 in 1,000. So it is very, very, very difficult to work with a literary agent for a lot of reasons. First of all, the competition is very fierce. Most people say they want to write a book someday. I've even seen that percentage of Americans who want to write a book is slightly higher than our current literacy rates. So there are people that aren't fully literate that would also like to write a book. Everyone has a book idea. Everyone has a story they want to tell. And that's amazing. I love that. But the competition is fierce. And the competition of qualified people who are also good writers is also fierce. There also just aren't a lot of agents. So the number of people who want to pitch books versus the number of agents that are out there, it's just difficult. Think people who want to be pop stars, think people who want to be Hollywood actors. You do have to be talented, but you also need to know what you're doing. You need to know how to navigate auditions and all of those things. And the same thing is true in the publishing industry. It's an industry. There are best practices. There are movers and shakers. You can't just wake up one day and think, I want to write a book, and as soon as I write it, agents will be knocking on my door. It usually doesn't work that way. So the odds of getting an agent are about 1 in 1,000. The odds of getting a traditional publishing contract, whether you're agented or unagented, although agented makes it a little easier, the odds of getting a traditional publishing contract are 1 to 2%. Very, very difficult to get a traditional publishing contract for the same reasons I listed out when it comes to agents. You know, everyone wants to write a book. A lot of people write really well, but publishers only publish a certain number of books per year. They have a set schedule, they have a budget, they acquire a certain number of books and they publish a certain number, and they have a lot of choices just because competition is so fierce. So it's very difficult to get a traditional publishing contract. But I would like to offer a big but here. The first but is books come out all the time. So people navigate publishing all the time. New books are released every day, most of them on Tuesdays. That's the standard industry day for traditional book releases. But new books come out all the time. New authors are discovered all the time. So it is possible, even though it's very difficult. The big but I'd like to offer here is that agents and acquisitions editors report that about 95% of the pitches they receive are not up to industry standard. Either the person hasn't written a coherent pitch, or the book that they're pitching isn't fully formed or doesn't meet the market, or they don't realize that there's a way to package their ideas. They don't realize they need to write a query letter and a book proposal. And even if they do write a book proposal, they haven't really gone about it in a savvy way, or the book just isn't on brand or on target, and the author hasn't done a good job proving there's a readership for this book. The author hasn't done a good job proving why they're the right person to write it, why this book needs to exist, and how it meets something going on in the current culture and the zeitgeist. Again, this is mostly true for nonfiction. Fiction is another ball of wax. So about 90%, 95% of the pitches that agents and acquisitions editors receive are not on point for one reason or another. And that has nothing to do with the bigness of your idea or the quality of your writing. So this is why I always say when it comes to getting published traditionally, fortune favors the informed and the persistent. So you need to be informed. You need to know how to navigate the industry, how to write a query, how to write a book proposal, what are the best practices, and what strategies you can use in order to break through. And you need to be persistent. Those 1 to 2% of authors who do wind up breaking through, not only are they skilled and have a good idea and are able to demonstrate that well and write a successful pitch, they also have been persistent because there's a layer of subjectivity over everything. What you pitch to one agent may not be her cup of tea, but the next person that you pitch may say, where have you been all my life? Let's sign tomorrow. So you need to be informed, you need to be savvy, but you also need to be persistent. I used to say fortune favors the persistent, but you can be persistently wrong and that's not going to get you anywhere. So understanding how the industry works, crafting an amazing pitch for a good book, and being persistent until you find the right representative in an agent and who can help you find the right publishing home, it takes time. So the odds of getting a nonfiction book proposal decrease, I should say increase, shouldn't I? Yes. The odds of getting a nonfiction book deal increase when you continually hone your craft. You do need to be a good writer. Not only do your samples need to be good and well written because the competition is so fierce, but you write the book proposal. So that's actually the first sample of your writing that anyone's going to look at when they consider you. So continually hone your craft, learn how to communicate well, learn how to communicate persuasively, hone your craft. It's not enough to be gifted. There are people who are extremely gifted, who won awards in high school, most likely to succeed, but they never honed the gift that their creator put in them. Don't be that person. Continually hone your craft. Also, craft an amazing book proposal that proves why this book needs to exist, why you're the right person to write it, and how you can reach an existing readership with it. There are ways that you can approach the book proposal to show those things with intentionality, and that's part of what I do. I coach people through that so that when they get their shot, they are able to wow whoever they're pitching their book to. Educate yourself on how publishing works and how you can navigate the publishing industry with intentionality. You do those things, and the odds of you landing a nonfiction book deal will increase.